or that the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the waters that were trying to drown a woman or something like that. And this all ran out. This all ran out of here. Now, what these waters were, whether they were chasing some woman, I have no idea. There's so much to talk about now. Because all the things that were just considered just absolute insanity. Words that were just meaningless, crazy stuff. And now it's taken on a meaning that, well, let's say, to put it this way. It's taken on new meaning. It's something we should investigate. That created the Cape Verde Islands, I believe, when this all ran out here. You see how it's piled up here and then it swishes off to the sides? Exactly what would happen from all this mud. And Plato said when Atlantis collapsed, which I think this is Atlantis, so much mud ran they would never speak of mud again. And Atlantis was right outside the straits, they said. Well, what straits, Roger? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because that looks like a pretty straight straits to me. And what's that doing there? And guess what? What is this doing here? What's all that crazy looking stuff? That is the swish of the wish, of the swoosh and the whoosh. And it washed over Atlantis out into the Atlantic Ocean here. So it looks like to me. Now how this fish is this big and how this dragon is this big and how they got here and why they're laying here in the desert on top. They're not buried by anything. These are right on top of the surface. And this is just two of many, many, many things that I could show you that would just blow your mind. And if you haven't seen this before, this should be a pretty good mind blower for you, because this thing goes all the way across North Africa. The tail is over here, you see that? That's the tail, is still dragon-scaled tail running off, bleeding, you know, that's what they call effluent. Any autopsy guy or anybody that was in forensic, you know, when they go out to take dead bodies out, if they've been laying there for a long time, it's the exactly same thing. They run off of it bloats out the fluids and forces them out, and they're red and black because that's the colors of blood. Primarily it's iron oxides, red and black iron oxides, which are your blood. So we all of these things, what was it like here? What was it like on Earth? It appears all these people were burying themselves under the ground, trying to hide from all of these events that were going on. Because they're finding all kinds of underground cities now. And of course you have, probably most of you know about Cappadocia and how tunneled and filled in with tunnels it was. And you know, once you got in there in that labyrinth and you knew where you were going, you could probably escape almost anybody. And they say that that's pretty much what they were designed for, is for safety reasons. Now, I understand what they were. They were actually digestive systems and blood vessels and so forth from giant creatures, because it wasn't just these two. They were everywhere. They were everywhere. So all of the cave systems and so forth, if you know what to look for, you could find all the biology in them. Even Petra. You look at Petra. Let me show you Petra. We're talking about giant. Petra's somewhere over in this area. But we're talking about giant creatures that had giant body parts and giant muscles and everything else. All right, I'm going to show you Petra's somewhere over in this area. But we're talking about giant creatures that had giant body parts and giant muscles and everything. Else. All right, I'm going to show you Petra's somewhere over in this area. But we're talking about giant creatures that had giant body parts and giant muscles and everything else. All right, I'm going to show you Petra in a second. But remember this. You see these little blocks They have these little separations, and then they have black and white, black and white. And when they pinch together, like this, that's what a muscle does. These are muscle sarcomeres. And that's what they look like unpinched. When they pinch, they come together. Now, let's look at Petra. You see that? That's Petra. Those are sarcomeres right there. Those are blood sarcomeres. I mean muscle sarcomeres. Just exactly what I showed you a second ago. You see how they have the black ones and then the white ones? These are blocks. That's a block. See that? And that was a block. You see they punched these little holes in here? That's to let the moisture come out. Because they carved these when they were wet. They were still moist. So the earth, in my estimation, was flooded, and all of these gigantic, gigantic, gigantic creatures died. And then they were, the earth was almost boiled, apparently. And these were pretty much parboiled. And then they sort of dried out, and this is all muscle. And inside the treasury, you can see the, which is inside that area. This is all muscle too. That's all body parts carved into. You see the blood vessels up here? This is all tendinous and body parts and muscle and fibers and all that stuff. So that's what this is built from, is somebody's body. Fibers and all. That's all body parts carved into. You see the blood vessels up here? This is all tendinous and body parts and muscle and fibers and all that stuff. So that's what this is built from, is somebody's body. All right? And it was all wet, and they did this obviously when it was wet. And I have other areas that I can show you. Well, let me show you. All right, you see this is in Fuerte del San Piata, Bolivia. And these are tire tracks from a excavator machine that cut these slabs of wet tendons. This is tendon. That's better building material than flesh, to be honest with you. And that's what they built these walls with down in Peru and Bolivia and all down in there. And that's why they put them together, and they all fit perfect, and they're all oddball sizes because they put them in like wet putty. This machine was in here when obviously it drove up here when it was wet, but it didn't drive here. Something must have set it down. Look at this. Here, I have another picture of this somewhere here. Hold on. Yeah, look. That didn't drive here. It didn't drive here. Otherwise, it would. You'd see the things would keep going. Something dropped this down from the sky, as far as I'm concerned. If you see how you see anything different there, I don't know. There's nothing here. It just stops right here. It didn't drive here. You see this way out here and way out here? That was a big platform. And they dropped it here. Now, whether this was here as wheels, I don't know. Or whether it just left here and this locked it in so that it couldn't move. Because obviously something was over here cutting. They must have had big long excavator arms that cut into there and cut slabs out. Because they used these slabs to make those fabulous walls. And they were making them out of body parts, and I can prove that too. Now this is another one. This was wet when this was done. This was moist. And that is just like the same kind of off-road tire that we have today. You see the tire pattern here? See it driving across there? Rolling across there. This is tendon. You see that? That's the Slurpee, they call it. small leucine-rich protein membrane that slides through, and that's a tendon. You see this? They cut those slabs out of wet flesh and tendon. And now this particular piece here, you see, this is the one right here. This is a blow-up of it. That's blood. That's blood and bone. I'm pretty sure this was a bone right here inside flesh or tendon. Tendon is the ideal building material, and I'll show you some tendon. This is this I believe is muscle, or it could be tendon, but that I believe is bone. This one up here, look at that piece. That's just nothing but raw, fleshy material. This is the kind of stuff you want to build with, and these are the ones that have the bumps on them. Let me show you that real quick. You see the bumps up here? The ones that are higher up here, they use the better building materials, and then they must have run out and they use all the scrap down in the front here. That's all I can think of. You see here it is, they're cutting these slabs out. This is the same stuff. This is the tendon. And then they built these walls back here. They cut all the slabs right out of here. So they must have had some kind of a machine doing that. See that's another tendon right there. The kid's using it to slide in. This is the Slurpee stuff that I showed before, where that tire track was driving over one of these tendons. You see, this is what it looks like pretty much. Somebody smoothed that down over a course of time or something, because this is what it should look like. But somebody smoothed that out. And they might have done that when it was wet. See, this is what the tendon is. Now, this is one type of tendon from an Achilles heel. Remember we saw the things running down, the kids sliding down? That's the kind of stuff. There's another one which is a mat. That's the real good one for making the walls, and they have bumps on the mat. Let me show you what that looks like. But that's the anatomical Achilles tendon. Okay, this is the really good stuff. These are tendon mats. And then they have this ball like this that goes through a little anchor spot, and then the ball locks in below into